You had it?
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, hard.
Blessings. It's not showing me who you are just yet. But blessings. Glad you could be a part of us tonight.
This cat's not moving like a dog. Look how big she is.
Hey, Sister Tori. How are you?
Blessings.
Pray your day went well. How y'all liking this cold weather? Everybody was wondering when winter was going to get here. It's here. Truly cold. I'm trying my best. Did go out today. Thought I was going out to do something. And when I felt the cold, I turned right on back around and came in the house because I ain't even playing with winter. I'm not mad that it's here because we do need the snow to kill some of the germs. Blessings, blessings, blessings. We thank you for joining us tonight Tonight is going to be another fruitful night of discussion.
Does that say 4 or 1? I can't see.
Where you at?
On your phone.
4.
Oh.
It says 4 on this and probably not. There ain't nobody Victoria your brother. Thank you guys for signing on. As we meet every week, tonight is going to be a fruitful night of discussion. Apostle Wyatt is going to take the lead on tonight, my bestie. And I'm just going to be right here filling in. But tonight, Apostle wants to deal with us concerning how to live a normal life while at the same time dealing with the trauma of grief. Some of you may remember that we talked about this some time ago. But, because we get different viewers each time, you can never say it too much. And because of the time of the year that we're in, you can never talk about it too much, because you never know. Somebody who thought they had it all together before might be the very one that is struggling now because they just didn't think it would be them in this situation. Some of us are grieving to a point where it's messing with the rest of our daily living. And so what we want to do is to be able to grieve and still live. Like we want to be able to deal with the loss of whatever it is, relationship, person, whatever that is, whatever type of break or loss, and still live a normal, sane life. And so we're going to release you into her care. Hey, T. And wherever she needs us to jump in, we will. But you guys are used to me.
Y'all see our kitty back there? She's joining us a lot tonight.
So, Apostle?
So often we talk to each other throughout the week and say, what are we going to talk about tonight? What are we going to talk about tonight? What do you think we should talk about? And so the other night I had a dream that it wasn't this type of setting though. We were still live, but it was like we had microphones and we were talking to people.
Like a podcast.
I guess, yes. And the topic that I saw a lot of people crying and the pain was grief. And so having to have dealt with grief, it could be grief of a loved one. You could be grieving a relationship, a marriage. There's a lot of, as Apostle has taught us throughout her timing, that you can grieve in a lot of ways. So what is grief? I went and I looked up what grief is. It is a deep sorrow, especially that's caused by something or someone's death. It is trouble. Grief can cause you to be fatigued. Grief can cause you to be tired. Grief can cause you to not want to socialize with your peers. Grief can cause you to not be able to sleep at night. And we're just thinking that it's insomnia, or we're just not able to sleep because maybe you're not thinking about that person that you lost. But these are all different types of grief. It almost is on the same line of depression, because you don't want to be bothered. You go into the dark place. You don't want to shower. You don't want to do your normal daily living. And some of us are suffering from grief. All right. Grief can be very strong. It can be overwhelming. It can cause you to feel more saddened than normal. And so I continue to look on grief. And as you look up, it talks about the 3 C's of grief. Connect, communication, and choice. When you are grieving, these are 3 areas that we struggle with. Choice, connecting.
Lessons, overseer.
Choice, connecting, and communicating. When we are in grief, it is very overwhelming. You can miss a whole day due to grief. You don't want to be bothered with people at time. Us as leaders, when we went through our grief, we needed a moment of silence, a moment not to preach to the people, a moment to just get away and gather ourselves. Grief is one of those things that you just cannot control. You cannot control grief. Yes, it is. It is a real thing. So in my time of the dream that I had of us talking about grief and looking it up, because we want to know when we're talking to other people what grief can cause. When I lost my mother, my foster mother, I grieved terribly because she raised me. She was there for me throughout my years. She helped me raise my daughter. And a part of me, can I be real? When she died, a part of me died. When she left, a part of me left. And so it left me with saying, why did you do this to me? It left me with trying to figure out now, how am I going to cope in life, and you left me here by myself. So now here I am, 17, 18, trying to figure out how life is supposed to go on when she was literally my life. She helped me raise my daughter. When I went to work, she took care of my daughter. These are different things that we dealt with. So coping with grief and loss, one of the things that is very, very vital, and we don't like to do it, is counseling. You cannot grieve alone. You need counseling. You need somebody to talk to. It's okay to feel pain. Let me say that. Nobody can tell you how much time it takes to heal. Grieving is a process. So don't let anybody tell you that by the second week you done lost somebody that you love and you should be healed. Are you stupid or dumb? Which one? Okay. So grief takes time to heal. And I pray that this helps someone tonight to say that, you know what? It's okay to grieve. It is okay to cry. It is okay to have those moments of sadness where you shut down and you just don't want to be bothered with nobody. But there's one key factor that I want somebody to type. I can't stay there. I want you to type that in the comments. I cannot stay there. I must move on with my life. Although I'm grieving, although I'm hurting, although I'm in pain, I cannot stay there, because if I stop, everything around me dies. Okay. When my mom died, I didn't want to shower. I didn't want to go on with my daily routine. I did not want to move on in life. I didn't want to do church. I didn't want to talk to people. It is a part of the healing process, but we cannot stay there. Okay. It's okay to cry. It's okay to express these feelings. It's okay to say, I'm upset. Why did you do this to me? It's okay to say, who can I talk to? Who can I share this with? When we are going through, we must get up. That's the first thing. No, counseling is the first thing. That is the first thing that we must do. We must go seek counseling. We must go seek help. The second thing that we have to do is we have to get up. In order to seek counseling, we have to get up. So we need to get therapy, counseling, and let it be somebody you can trust. It doesn't have to be your pastor. It doesn't have to be somebody that's in your local community. Go outside of the church. It is okay to get how you say it?
Self-help.
Self-help. It is okay to say, I need some help dealing with this because a part of me has now died. Literally, a part of me, I felt numb. I felt like I could just not go on. I felt like, oh my God, what do I do now? Because this person that I love the most, even dealing with it with Apostle, she held herself together. She did not break down. And one Mother's Day, she just bust down and started screaming, and I didn't know what to do. I'm like, first of all, tell me what's happening. Speak, use your words. And she just kept crying and crying and crying. And I had to give her her moment. So in those times of grief, we must take our moment. It is okay to have a moment, but you can't make it a mountain. It is okay to cry, but you don't want to grieve to the point where you want to go where that person is. While I love my mother to death, I cherished her, but not enough to say, you know what, I'm going to die too. Let me die too, because we must continue on with our life, expressing how we feel. All right. So I said, go to counseling, get some therapy, get up. The next thing I want to encourage you, as we often talk about, get a journal. Write down what you feel. What you can't say with your mouth, you should be able to write what you feel. So get you a journal. We are doing, what's the journals we're doing?
Affirmation.
Affirmation journals. Get these journals. All right. Write in there what you feel. Keep it to the side. And as time go on and you finish with that journal, Within maybe 3 years, you should be able to look back and say, I am not in the same place I was when whoever it was in your life passed away, because it's just like an open wound. You have to treat that cut, you have to nourish it, you have to get antibiotics depending on how bad the wound is. Some people may need to be stitched depending on how bad the wound is, but I encourage you to get up. It's not easy to get up, but you need a good support system when you are grieving, because you lose your appetite, you don't want to eat, you don't want to be bothered with the world. Some people we know, everything in the house is black. Like, come on, you're taking yourself into a deeper depression. All right, so get into light colors. It may sound crazy to you, but you ever notice when you get dressed, when you're grieving, everything is just dark, navy blue, black, everything. It's just dark because that's a part of us that's grieving. So we have to figure out a way how to brighten up our closet. Let's get some bright things in there. Let's put on some bright color clothes. All of this stuff is going to make you feel better. Affirmation is very important in the time that we are going through our loss. All right, keep a journal, express your emotions. For some of us, what is that outlet? For some of us, it may be music. Right, you don't clean your house because you're just that depressed. The world around you begins to slip away because you're so far into grieving until you don't know that it's killing a part of you. So you have to get back your daily life. You have to bounce back into your daily routine, listening to music. um Listening to music is one of the ways to deal with your emotions. All right. Get that type of music that you like to listen to soothe that moment for that time that you are going through. All right. So you can journal, you can listen to music, even your prayer time, talking to God, just like I'm talking to you. Listen, God, this is a lot for me. I don't know how to handle it. I'm used to this person doing this with me. Birthdays coming around, Mother's Day, Father's Day, Christmas. I'm used to picking up the phone saying, hey, mom, dad, pop, sister, what's up today? What you doing today? How you feeling today? I'm used to that routine. But what happens when you go to pick up that phone and you be like, oh, that person is not here no more? You're left to face with reality. You're left to deal with, how do I cope with this? So it's time for some of us to really, really cope with the death of loved ones. And I'm not talking to you from a point where we have not been. A lot of times people just do stuff or pick topics because it sounds good. This is a very sensitive topic because we're in a time where people that we really love and hold close to us are leaving, and a part of us are going in the grave with them. So how do I get that part of me back? You start doing things slowly. You graduate, like Overseer said, he didn't want to clean his house. So now you start little by little, picking up things, cleaning up things, changing your environment, changing your curtains, doing those little things, journaling, music, getting therapy. It's nothing wrong, people of God, with getting therapy. We must get back to our normal way of life, and it takes time to do. All right.
Can I jump in right there?
Yes.
So, because we always are moving in a spirit of transparency, and we like for you to understand that we really do get where you are. And so, like Apostle said, that one time when you go to pick up the phone and that person is not there. So my mom is not, she hasn't been gone 3 years yet, but when she first passed away, I was there. I was rubbing her hand until her body started turning cold, and I knew that she wasn't going to be with us by morning. And sure enough, that's exactly what happened. We got called back because she had transitioned, and I went right into apostle mode. Like, I didn't cry. I came in, I sang to her, I kissed her, and I prepared her, my sister and I, for the people to roll her out the room. So I became, that person. I had to be the strength for my sister. I had to be the strength for my daughter, my children. I had to be the strength for my grandchildren. And I didn't have an opportunity to be her daughter. I had to play the role of the apostle, the one who was going to carry out her desires and her message and everything. And I did well. I asked God to give me a peace. And to some, it was strange because it really was peace. Like, there was never a break in my laughter or anything like that, because I needed to be all things to all people. So I thought at that time. Um, and so it wasn't until my mom passed in March. So from March up until Mother's Day of that year, there was no tears shed. There was no, the only thing I felt is when I closed the coffin, it took my breath away and I ran out of the building. Well, not out of the building, out of the sanctuary. But still no tear. I just felt like my breath had been taken away. I went back upstairs and continued to be what I needed to be. And so it wasn't until Mother's Day came and I went to pick up the phone to call my mom, which is what we normally do, and I just lost it. Like completely lost it. I was speechless, just angry. I was speechless and yet lost. I was speechless and felt like I had been abandoned because my mom was that go to person. She was my encourager. She was my first of everything. Whatever I did in ministry, she was the first to make sure I had what I needed for that particular aspect of ministry. And so I don't want people to think that we don't understand what you might go through, or that we're saying that, oh, well, y'all must not really be grieving. No, we do. We just don't stay there.
There's different stages.
And so it wasn't until Mother's Day that reality came, and for a moment, that's where I was. Like, God, just take me now. Like, she was my epitome of faith. She was my go-to person. She was my living testimony of what God could do, of what the doctors say different. And so all of that had, to me, been snatched at one time, and it was just not a good day. And so many things happened throughout that particular Mother's Day. And I'll never forget it. But I want you all to understand that when, like Apostle said, when we're talking to you, been there, done that. We're not asking you to do what we haven't had to do. But it's different when you're just the daughter, the aunt, the niece, as opposed to the daughter that's a minister, the daughter that's a pastor, the daughter that's anything in ministry, because you don't get that same time span. People expect you to just get over it because it's ministry and you should be ready for it. But it's just the opposite. Even though it's ministry, you're just never ready for it. My mother was in hospice. We knew time was coming, but that still didn't make me ready for the moment. Um, and so I want you all to know that we experience hurt, pain, anger, rage, all of the emotions that come along with grief. We experience it, but we just don't have the ability of having someone minister to us the way we are available to minister to others. And so that matters.
That's very true. I saw on here, Overseer DeBose said, he went shopping, but he went in debt. That's, you were distracting the pain. You were distracting yourself from what you were feeling.
Pastor Chase.
You were distracting yourself from what you was feeling in the pain, so you went shopping. And that was one of the other things when I was studying on grief. It said do something to distract yourself of the pain. For some of us, we eat. Some people sleep. Some people excuse me.
Okay.
Some people go out to dinner. Some people eat too much, gluttony. And so you try to do too much to cover up the grief instead of letting the grief take place. So we have to learn that it is okay. And I'm going to keep saying it as we are throughout this live. Miss you too, Pastor Tracy. It is okay to grieve loss, because if you don't grieve it properly, it leads into sickness. Then you start having sugar diabetes. You start dealing with cancer. You start dealing with all of these forms of different sicknesses because we did not take the time to grieve properly. So remember, it is okay. Get you a counselor, get you a therapist, go to therapy, do whatever it needs to do so that you can grieve properly. After you're done with that, remember, get up. You cannot afford to stay down because there's somebody else that's dependent on you to get them through. So you can be down for a moment, but let's not stay there for a long time, because then we become no good to ourselves. And after we get up, let's get us a journal and start writing. Let the tears hit the paper. But as long as you're writing, you're going to be okay. I come to find out that when I'm in my lowest place, if I'm writing, it helps me to identify with the emotion that I feel. Writing helps you to identify with the emotion that you feel. So once you start to write it out, once you start to journal it, once you start to do whatever, you are in a better place because it helps you deal with the grief that you're feeling. So it is okay to grieve. People have us feeling that as leaders, it's not okay to grieve, or it's not okay for us to have our moments because then we become less of a leader. It doesn't make me less because guess what? I bleed blood just like you do. Apostle bleed blood just like you do. You bleed blood just like we do. So it's because I'm a leader that makes me less for me to grieve. No, I grieve just like you grieve, but I can't stay maybe as long as somebody else can because I have a ministry, I have a church. I have to continue to move on with my day-to-day life, even though I'm hurting. I can't get stuck and stay there. Imagine how many people, when they start grieving, if they will quit and leave their job. Who gonna pay the bills? Oh, I don't feel like paying the bill today because I'm grieving. We take our bereavement days, we take time to do whatever we need to do and heal, and then we go back into our daily routine. But there comes times and moments where you stop and you reflect on, oh, I miss this person. Or me and this person, we used to text every day. Now I can't text that person no more. Or you pick up the phone and you forget that the person is not here no more. And you actually dial a number and then you realize, oh my God, they not here no more. So this is all a part of the grieving process, and it is okay to grieve. It's how we handle while we're grieving. Okay. So remember, that was some of the things that I wanted to say about as we're grieving. Let's grieve and go through. Let's not grieve and get stuck. Take the time that you need to grieve. Take those few moments that you need. Take that year time. Go on sabbatical if you need to. It doesn't make sense to try to lead and bleed on the people because we're hurting, because then we make mistakes that we can't get back, or we cut the wrong people, or we lash out. Like a few weeks ago, I had to say to my bestie, hey, I didn't do it to you. What's the matter? You okay? And then we had to realize it was coming up on her mother's birthday. So as she was approaching that, we didn't know that that's what it was at the moment. But sometimes we can cut and hurt the people closest to us when we are dealing with grieving. She probably didn't even know that that's what she was dealing with. But that is a part of grieving. And as you are healing, people have to be able to understand. So we didn't argue, we didn't fuss, we didn't fight. I waited till she calmed down and got herself together. And I came to her the next day and I said, hey, that hurt my feelings because you said it that way. Or I feel like you could have did it a different way. But then it dawned on me, I think we were on live when I remembered, wait, this is leading up to her mom's birthday. So she was short. You'll become short tempered. Everything could get on your nerves. She's not as bad as she used to be when October rolled around for her dad's birthday, but she still go through those moments. See, I know those dates. So when you're close to someone, when October and January and May and all of these different things start rolling around, when you really love somebody, you pay attention so you know how to handle them. You can't handle them the same way as you would as those days roll around, because it's called that time of grieving that we go through. And I think as we mature in God, and as we move on and we go forward and we get stronger, God will grace us. He will grace us with the strength to get through it. But I don't think it will ever fully go away when you love someone that deep and that to that capacity. I still grieve my brother, not as bad as I did when my foster mom died. I don't grieve him that bad anymore, but I still have my moments. His birthday is June 12th. And every time June 12th come, I'm wondering, I text my brother and say, how old would my brother have been today? So things like that. Those are certain type of grievance that we go through, or those memories come up and you remember, what we was doing on this day or what was happening. Facebook can go back like 15 years. I'd be like, why we got to go back this far? I'm already grieving and now you taking me back 15 years. So it is okay to grieve, guys. That is the moral of this story. It is okay to grieve. It's what we do while we're grieving. All right. It is okay to grieve. Remember, and I'm going to say it again and I'm going to let Apostle talk. It is important that we get therapy. Never let nobody say, right, it's a whole different pain losing a mother, honey. Trust and believe it is. So it's okay. Go get therapy. Don't think that you're too big, that you don't need therapy, because all of us need somebody to talk to. So go get therapy. Sometimes I just listen. I'm learning how not to always have an input. Sometimes I just need to call or talk, and I just need you to listen and not give your input on where I am right now. Because if you never lost a mother, how can you give me advice? If you never lost a loved one, what can you say to me? It's easy to say, "Oh, I know what you're feeling." No, you don't, because you never lost a loved one. So go get some therapy. People of God, it's okay to get therapy.
It really
After you get a
is.
therapy, I want you to get yourself up, wash yourself off, take a good shower, wash your face, brush your teeth, and get those shoulders up and say, I could do this. Square those shoulders back. I could do this. It may hurt, but I can do it. And after you get up and convince yourself that you can do it, then get your journal. Start writing. Listen, I'm hurting. This hurt me. This was my grandson. This was my mother. This was my father. This was whoever. Please shower. Right. You'll be surprised.
It's just,
You will be
some people
surprised.
just don't, they let their whole selves go because
Yes.
that's how much they depended on,
Yes.
look to that person. For me, I'm always that strength for everybody during their time of loss. Anybody in my life could tell you the same way. I'm right there. I'm Johnny on the spot, whatever. But and even when it came to getting my mother's service together, people were surprised at how well and how smoothly it was going and how I was able to get it done. Is you do what you have to do in the moment, especially that's what you know as a leader to do what is necessary and then come back, But like I said, I was everything to everybody. I just never got to be my mother's daughter. So that first Mother's Day was it for me. And it was a very traumatic day. And I say to people, as Apostle said, everybody's mourning time is different.
It's different.
But there was someone that I dated some time ago, and it was like 11 years ago. 11 years had passed, and he was still grieving this one family member like it happened yesterday. And he removed himself, and he was shut down from the church, and he would do. And I was like, you got to get to a place where you can mourn the person without dying.
Without dying.
You can mourn the person without dying.
Depression.
And again, having been there and done that, I was like, God, you might as well just go ahead. I don't even care no more, because everything that I thought was anything was my mother, and now she's not here. Who's going to be that person who can listen to me? Well, I went to a therapist, and I was very I had to be my mother's exactly. I had to be my mom's pastor, and it was just crazy. And having to go to therapy, because it's sad that we have to say that we need to go outside of the church, because for years you went to the church. That was therapy. But in today's time, with each person not being sure whether the person that they're speaking to is truly going to be somebody, hey, Ro, you're on the wrong page. Confide in, you got so many people exposing each other. You got so many people taking advantage of people while they're at their lowest point. I tell people the worst case scenario for me was I thought I was going to be considered crazy. They say crazy people go to a psychiatrist, but I found out that going to the psychiatrist is what kept me from going crazy. And so between the psychiatrist and my therapist, having somebody who knows nothing about me to hear everything that I needed to say about me without condemnation, without interrupting me, but just sitting and actively, not just listening, actively listening. Therefore, they heard not only what I was saying, but they heard the words that I didn't know to say. And they were able to redirect some of those emotions and justify some of the emotion and help me to understand, one, that I wasn't wrong for being where I was. You feel like as a leader, this is not where you're supposed to be. Everybody's supposed to be able to come to you. You're not supposed to have to go to nobody. But when you, after year after year after year, have everybody coming to you, and you never say that it's too much, because God's never going to give you more than you could bear. So whoever's coming to you, God already knew it was happening. So he must have thought you could do it. And so because of that, we take on so much as leaders. We just never before this, I would say a year or two, knew how to say no.
Mm-hmm.
Everything was yes, or okay, I'm gonna make it happen, or what can I do? If I didn't have it, you didn't know it, I'll tell you, yeah, and then I'll tell you I'll get back to you, and then I'll go use my resource and tell them I need it, and then give it to you. Now then comes the time when you need it, and now it's no longer there, of course, because you used it for somebody else. But the fact of the matter is, we as leaders in the church are so used to having to be there for somebody else that we don't know how to let people be there for us.
And that's true. I think because we're so programmed, I think
We just don't know it, and you can't trust people the same these days.
I learned something when I was studying on grief. Now, this may sound crazy to y'all because it sounded crazy to me. We tell people, I know we did it a while back, maybe like 4 years ago. We tell people when we are in the process of forgiving people, we write a letter and we burn it, right?
For people that we can't see.
Can't see. So when I was reading on grief, it says you write a letter to the person that died, and then you write the letter, you ball the letter up, you burn it, and you throw it away.
That's what we
And that
did, yes.
is a sign. I never knew that about grief. I knew that about forgiving someone when you're trying, and if they die. But it says when you are in the grieving process, because that person left you and you wasn't able at the funeral or at their bedside to say to them, listen, mom, dad, grandpa, grandma, this is how you left me feeling, and I didn't have a chance to tell you that this is what happened to me. You write the letter, you burn the letter, and you wherever you throw it away, you toss the letter. Not about grief.
Yeah.
I know about that's
we're
the
dealing
when
with
I
the
read
7
that,
emotions.
When I read that thing blessed me. I know we did it for when we talked about healing, when we talked about, but I've never known it for grief per se. But nonetheless, that's what I lost my train of thought. Nonetheless, that's what I want to encourage you to do. I lost my train of thought. Write a letter, because some of us are grieving really bad and we don't know how to deal with it. Even after going to therapy, even after talking to people, even after sharing, there's still a part of us that just does not know how to bounce back from that loved one leaving us. So I want you to write a letter to whomever that person is and burn it and toss it so that you can begin to heal. I also found out, now I know I heard Apostle mentioning this, a lot of times we make memorial necklaces for people, rest in peace necklaces, and you wear it around your neck. And if you are not healed, that's not safe to do, because you keep the grieving wound open. It's a constant reminder of what happened. So when we're making these different memorial things, it should be done after we are at a certain point of our healing. And I don't know what that time is. I don't know what your time of healing is, but that's when we should be, because you're keeping these wounds open when you start wearing them around your neck, or when you start, you don't give yourself time to properly heal. So I want to encourage you to do that. Write your letter. Do whatever it takes for you to properly heal. But remember those steps. It is very vital and it's important that we make sure that we get some type of counseling, that we get up and live. I don't know how I'm remembering these steps so good, because I would have been forgot about a fourth step. But get up and live. Then you journal it down. And after you journal it down, you go on and do what needs to be done. So I encourage you tonight to keep moving, to keep living. Although it hurt, although it's a painful situation.
I love you.
Although it hurt, although it's a painful situation, you have to get up and live. You have to move. If you stay in that place, you will be stuck, and you don't want to be stuck. Grieving is not easy. I would tell anybody that. It took me a long time to get over my mom. So for each individual, it's different. But as we continue to talk about grief, especially during birthdays, holidays, those times that you all will come together and spend together. Maybe they was living with you and you would sit down, and you would eat a meal for them. Some of us need to go and clean out that place that we're holding all of this stuff. I don't know who that's for. Get rid of those memories so that you can move forward effectively and freely. Because if you're afraid to address it or approach it, you're never going to be able to heal. So that's what God wants us to do. He wants us to get to a place that we can heal. So journaling is important. And I'm going to turn it over to Apostle. Journaling is important. Therapy is important. Getting up and living is definitely important. And getting back to your daily routine of life. Some of us have quit living because a part of us left when somebody else died. It is not okay that you're living dead. I'll let that sit for a minute. It's not okay that you're living, but yet you're dead because a part of you died. So let's get back into the routine of getting up, moving on with our daily life, getting our lives together, seeing what it is that we can do to change where we are. Grieving is okay, but dying is not. So we must get up and live, okay? We must. And I'll come back in if you need me to, but I'm going to
Okay, so let's
turn the floor
clarify.
to you.
Let's go back to a few moments ago when Apostle said, "Get rid of your memories," because I felt you. She's not saying for you to forget
Oh,
the
no, no, no.
person that you've lost. That is not what
Mm-mm.
she's trying to tell you right there. What she's saying is, if it's keeping the wound open, then you need to find a way to close it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, like we said earlier, you can have your moment, but don't make it into a mountain. All of us hurt and grieve differently depending on who it is that we lost. Um, and like we said, for me with my mom, my first Mother's Day was just out of this world crazy. I just didn't feel like being bothered with people or anybody. Didn't want to know where God was that day. I just didn't, because it was my first time responding and reacting to the loss of my mother, because I was her apostle and I never got to be her daughter when she passed away. However, like Apostle is saying, with therapy, um, I really, I really truly used to think you had to be crazy to go. But I found out now that you go so that you don't go crazy. And some of us, for memorials, like she was talking about with the necklaces that we wear, that says rest in heaven or rest in peace. For some of us, we're wearing them because we're trying to keep this person alive. And while others are really truly, sorry, using it as a memory. I have what Apostle made for me is a magic heart. It's a mirror. I think I showed it to you guys a couple of times ago. It's a heart and it's a mirror. And during the day, it's just that. You look in that mirror, you're going to see you. But at night, when you turn the light on, it's my mom. It's a picture that she took of my mom in her last moments, holding on to my wrist and just sharing some things with me. And I didn't even know she had gotten that picture. So that was what she gave me. She also, her and my bearer of arms got me a blanket set that had my mom and I those last moments. And so it's something that I could hold to and she still be there. She made me a family blanket. Family is everything blanket, and my mom and her children, and things that I could look at and say, wow, we can talk about where that picture came from, but I'm not at that point where I'm saying, oh my God, like I don't want to be bothered. And it took a lot for me to get there. Like I said, when I did start to have feelings, it wasn't a good place. And so for many years, like I said recently, that grief is not only dead people.
It's not.
It's just not. Most people, when you think about grief, they're talking about somebody you had to bury.
Mm-hmm.
But what about that person you broke up with that you thought was going to be with you forever?
I mean,
you
forever.
know, whether it was your husband, whether it was your wife, whether it was your fiance, whether it was your best friend, you just never saw God taking them away from you. You just never thought you would have to live life without them, and so when you have those kinds of relationships in your life, grief goes along with that. It's still a loss. It's still a death of something that's not coming back, something that's not going to be repaired. You can deal with it, you can mend, but you won't be able to repair it because they're gone. And so grief can do many things to you, but you want to make sure that while you're in your grief, you just don't die. We talk about all the time walking around with these living cemeteries. You getting dressed every day with that same hurt, disappointment, abandonment, rejection. You put it on. Somebody say something to you wrong during the day. That's not you responding. That's all the ill feelings you got that you put on this morning when you got up for work or for school, or church. You put those same garments back on, and that's what's responding to the people. Then you go home and you take off that same stuff and undress, and you just pick it back up until you are healed. You're walking around like a living cemetery. You need to deal with your grief. for whatever the reason, God laid it on Apostle's heart to do it again, must mean that the people are at that place. This season, Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's. For me, it was Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, and then my mother's birthday. This holiday time when you're really starting to think about the ones who you no longer have with you, and your thought processes go different ways. Some suicidal, some follow through with the attempt, not just a thought. And so we got to be mindful. But what we do not want to do is cause our own death because we didn't want to let the other people go or the other thing go. One thing I know too for sure, grief counseling is necessary. Lord knows I wish I would have losing a wife first, then a child, then my grandmother. Trust me, it's better to talk than do what I did and keep living, not understanding. I never faced it.
And that's what happened to me. I was married for 21 years before I got remarried. And a part of me, my soul, feel like it was ripped out because he was life. He was what I knew as life. Things just were not the same. It took me 4 years. They say 5. They say if you can make it to 5 years, it's the year of completion. By the time that 5th year rolled around, I was like, I'm gonna get up and get myself together. I cannot stay here because if I do, I'm not gonna be no good for nobody else. I was lacking so much mentally. I was drained. I could not believe it was happening to me. You could not tell me that it wasn't until death do us part. And when things was happening, when things was going on, I was like, you gotta be kidding me. But you know one thing I realized, and I'm gonna be a real transparent moment. God had to help me to see that I was making him an idol. Okay. That thing slapped me in my face. The Bible says, have no other God before me, right? He's a jealous God. So when you start making things an idol, God will remove it from you.
Than God.
And so making them more important. Like when I tell you, I love the ground that man walked on, like it was bad. And so God had to help me to understand that either you're going to do this my way or it's not going to work. And so that's what ended up happening. So you are absolutely right, Henry, when it talked about losing a wife. So it's just not in death. A part of me literally died. I had to learn how to quote unquote how to walk again. I had to do everything on my own. Y'all, it was so bad. I didn't even know how to write a check. I went into the bank. Apostle, when I first met her, she sent me into the bank, y'all, to write a check. Can I tell you, it was so bad. I stood at that thing and I cried like a baby. And Apostle was like, why you just didn't call me? First of all, I couldn't believe that I didn't know how to write a check. You know why? And this is a sidebar, because I let him do everything. I didn't know how to wash clothes. I didn't know how to write a check. I knew how to cook. That's for sure. If I didn't know how to do nothing else. But when you depend on a person so much so, you lose a part of your life to them. And so when they're gone, it's like, how do you live from here? How do you bounce back? And one day it's going to become a part of my testimony to help other young women, because we live, I hope this is not going off the topic, to help other young women, because we surround our life by these men and vice versa. Some of the men around these women, they probably would never say it until we don't know how to function on our own. We become dysfunctional because we are letting somebody else function for us.
You lose your voice.
You lose your voice. So you no longer can function on your own. So that is definitely a part of grief. And that thing has taught me to cherish no one more than God to a default. Because then I had to learn it's okay to open up in love. It's just how you love. And that person shouldn't have to suffer because you're afraid to go over those boundaries. I guess that's a good word to use.
And unless you put your heart out there again, you'll never know.
Right. So that is definitely a part of grief. That is definitely something. After my bestie finished her book, I will not write another book until my bestie finish hers. But I want to write one talking to our married couples, because we lose so much after a divorce. People talk so bad after a divorce, but you don't know what we went through, because she went through a divorce as well, but hers probably was not to my magnitude, because I made that man a God. All right. So
He
I
wasn't a
said that to
god, but
say grief is real. And when a part of you is gone, you don't know how to function and you don't know how to live. God knows. It took me a long time to find Elsie, a very long time. And no matter how much Apostle said to me that this was that, I still was trying to figure out how to get back to where I know that I was going to die if I went back to. But when we are not healed, we make situations that's we make situations more than what they should be.
when you're
When
afraid
you're
to,
afraid to,
yeah,
yeah, that,
you're afraid of what's next, and so I rather go back to what I'm familiar
yes,
with than
that's a real
venture
thing.
out into the unknown.
Yes.
And a lot of people be like, oh well, when things that have been said even about us when we're talking and things like that. Well, at the time you weren't remarried yet, so how they giving advice and they're not married. First of all, I was married for 10 years, and one thing I do teach everybody is to make sure your failure teaches you the lesson you need to learn, and you need to learn from your mistakes. And having been married 10 years, I can tell you some things you want to stay away from, but everybody's concerned about who's married and who's not. But Paul wasn't married, and that's what everybody based their marriage off. I don't understand. Paul telling y'all how to submit and everything else, and y'all listening because it's biblical, but you have some natural people here, and you trying to figure out, where it is. We're not coming at you saying that we are the authority on all these things. What we're telling you is we don't mind being transparent enough to let you know that, hey, we've been there, done that. We tried it, we failed at it, but we're making good. Apostle is remarried. God bless her life, and that's what she wanted. And so I'm over here on the side, and just, enjoying Jesus and enjoying the ability to pick up and move whenever I want. But at the same time, it was a form of death. I didn't just get divorced and I was okay the next day. I was okay the next year. No, it took me some time to bounce back from that one, because I just never thought that it was going to be anything other than till death do us part. So the fact that it didn't last the way that I really desired it to, it was a form of death for me. It was a form of grief for me, a time of mourning for me, something that I had wanted. God blessed me with it. And here I am saying, oh man, it didn't work. And I say God blessed me with it because God has his permissive will. We have his permissive will and his perfect will. It wasn't his perfect will because I didn't do what I needed to do, but what he did allow it to happen because it was what I desired. And so losing that was very devastating to me, considering I had children involved, and didn't know how to rightly instruct them so that they would not hear anything negative from me, but they would find out for themselves. And I tell anybody I'm counseling who's going through a divorce, leave your children out of it. Let them find out things on their own so that it doesn't look like either one of you is pushing toward the other. And so it was still a type of death for me, something I just didn't think I was going to have to go through. And so I can tell people with a surety that if you put your heart and your mind together with one accord and put your heart out there for love, and God knows that's what you want, love is what you'll get. He'll give you, but you must be specific. Don't just tell him you need a man, because a man is what you'll get. But be specific about what you need from the Lord, not just in prayer for your goals and things, but for your lifespan as well. So grief is real. Some people, when they're in grief, are very angry and very hostile. Like there's just nothing positive flowing from them. And it's not always that they want it to be that way. They just don't know how to control it. They don't know how to, they're not labeling it as grief. They're just, this is who I am. And that's really not. It's a culmination of who you are with, along with the things that you have had to deal with, being constantly being left alone or dropped. Every time you feel like you love something, it gets taken away. That feeling of abandonment, that disappointment, that hurt, rage, and all of that comes along with grief. The healing of grief, all of it is going to come out. All of those emotions are going to come, and you're going to have to ask for God's help to get to you when that time comes, because there's no warning. It was a floodgate, when it happened for me. And I was like, okay, I can't deal with all of this at one time. And that's how I ended up, doing therapy and things like that, because honey, um, yeah, It was just my bestie tell you I was kind of curt and cutthroat. I just didn't care, and I felt like that's because nobody cared for me. If you cared, you wouldn't have left me. If you cared, you wouldn't have died. If you cared, you wouldn't have turned away. If you cared, I had all these if, you know. But in the end of the day, at the end of the day, at the end of the hour, at the end of the moment, it is a matter of you. It's all about you. If you want healing, truly want healing, you have to deal with you. You have to deal with you. Otherwise, you're just layering things. And at this point in time, it's time for us to get rid of the layers and come to who we really are, you know, so that we can get through this thing. Some of us have been so used to making it look like everything is okay that we don't know how. We really just don't know how, and make it bad. We don't know how to tell nobody. We don't know how, because we don't want nobody feeling some kind of way or thinking some kind of way. We've given this impression and we're worrying about whether it's going to taint that. But at the end of the day, your healing ought to be the most important thing to you. Your healing, your wholeness, you know. And so Apostle Wyatt has gone over with us time and time again the different emotions and what we have to do, how we have to acknowledge that that's what it is, and then confront it, and then do something about it.
Yes.
I'll never forget that. Those classes were awesome. Apostle does a wonderful job on the 7 emotions. And, you know, it's not enough. You know, we say to the people, we here?
No, here.
We have we say to the people all the time, you know, like, what's the sense in you coming to us asking us if you're not going to apply what we're saying? Everything takes application. Everything takes application. Wow, that was my prayer this morning. Remove that person from my heart and you fill it with you, God. That's an awesome prayer. That's an awesome prayer. And as long as your heart and your mind are saying the same thing, it's going to happen sooner than you think. God does what we ask when we have a made up mind, when our heart is right concerning Him. He'll deal with the rest. He just needs you to totally surrender it over to Him. One thing about it, we have to begin to teach that grieving is just not about the closing of a casket. Grief is loss, whether financial, related. Yes, that's what we've been saying for the past couple of weeks. It's more than that person going in the grave. There are some things that are living right here amongst us that we are grieving, that we are wishing we never lost that friend. We're wishing we never had that argument that cost us this. We wish, you know, I could have said something differently. I could have responded differently, or whatever. You know, we can find different things that if we really take time and reevaluate some of the situations that caused us losses, we could say, you know, well, I probably could have did it another way. Or I probably didn't have to say it that way. Or I could have probably made sure they was all right when it was done. You know, I know that that's my testimony, because once I say what I say, I'm done. So
it is.
And so, you know, God had to help me with that. And when He helped me, I had to help my bestie. You know, it matters what the other person thinks, whether you agree with it or not, but they are entitled to those thoughts and those feelings. And so as we deal with grief, you know, we have to be willing to deal with the truth about us. Trust me, you'll understand it when that day comes, that it still had to come back to you, finding out who you are. Paul was single and was teaching about marriage all day long. Yes, he was. We read about it all the time. It ain't going nowhere. Them pages still the same. Right. You know, and so I've gotten past that. I've gotten over that, you know. But when we're talking about grief, you know, when Apostle said that today, you know, I trust her. I ask all the time, like she said, we go back and forth. What are we going to talk about tonight? Well, you said it. Well, last week, you know, we go through all of this. And then when we come on, we find out that we have more to say than we thought. And it's because, you know, different people need it at different times. And so there were many people in the Bible that preached the same message over and over and over again until it finally hit, you know. And that's what we have to do, even though, you know, we want to, or sometimes we move on to different discussions, we end up finding ourselves right back here dealing with emotions. And the main two things are grief and abandonment. and those are real things. And then the ability to love again. The ability to love again. And the only way you're going to find the true ability to love again is if you find yourself able to be loved. There's some work you have to do on you. The person coming in shouldn't have to do all of the work. You're supposed to know enough about yourself so that we don't have a repeat, but we have a step. Jesus went a little further. And so, that's what we want to do. We want to be able to move further. We don't want to keep going in that same circle. So this was good. This was good, Apostle. I'm glad you thought about this.
I don't have anything else to say. Thank you for the opportunity. Sorry, y'all, that was a slow moment. Thank you for the opportunity to even talk about it, because it's a real feeling. So the only thing I want to remind the people is the steps that it takes. Don't laugh, Tika. The steps that it takes to heal from the grieving process, all right? So we got to admit that we're grieving. It's very important that we acknowledge, as Apostle talked about, the what you call them, the seven emotions that I talked about. And I told them that acknowledging first that I'm grieving is very important, because some people is just in denial. They will not say that.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I don't know. Right, ma'am, I'm listening. You short with me every time I ask you a question. You shooting me down in 2 seconds. So grieving is very important. So acknowledging, yes, I'm grieving. Yes, I'm hurting. Find you a therapy. Get with someone outside of the church, a therapist. Go and get you some help. It is okay to say I need help. The church is so afraid to say that I need help. It is okay to say I am Holy Ghost filled, fire baptized, Jesus on my side, running for my life,
and I need help.
And I still need help. All right, I can pray. I'll pray a lot of y'all, and I still need help with my praying self. I need to get outside of that and go seek help from a therapist. And after I get that help from my therapist, then I'm going to journal it out. I'm going to write it out. I'm going to talk about it. I'm going to see how I can process it. And if needs be, some of you need to write a letter and get the burning and throw it away so that your whole self can heal. It feels so good when you are finally healed from something that you thought you would never be healed from. As I look back over my life some 15 years later, I would have never thought that I would be healed from certain things in my life. And I am. That's how I wrote about I've been healed without a scar. That is one of my books, and the Lord's been tugging me to pull it back out for whatever the reason is. I guess for Women's Conference. No, I mean to order some. I don't have any more. For Women's Conference, I'm going to order it and bring it back out, because a lot of us, men and women, need to be healed. We're holding on to things that happened to us in our past, whether it's molestation, whether you've been raped, whether you've been abused. Some of us dropped out of school and didn't go back. Some of us trying to do these different things. I talk about all of that in my book. So let's see how we can conquer this monster that's in our life so we can move forward. All right, so we can move forward. So I really truly pray that something that we said tonight has helped you to see that I really can get through this grieving process, but I must apply the steps. Nobody can do it for you. You must want to be healed. You must want to be healed. You must want to come forth. You must want to come out of it. Some people just like a pity party. Oh, what's the matter with you today, baby?
Oh my God.
Why are you feeling down today? No, get yourself up, brush yourself off, go get you some help, get you some counseling, get to journaling, talk to a friend, get in a support group. Somebody asked somebody tonight I was with, are you in the support group? They was like, no, because I don't want everybody to know my business. But guess what? When you're in the support group, most of the time, they're dealing with the same thing you're dealing with, so you can help them. So look for some of these grief support groups that you can get in to talk, to help you get through this grief process so that you could be a better person for somebody else, and you ain't lashing out at everybody.
Right.
You ain't across the pulpit going off on everybody because you're angry or because you're hurting and because you're grieving and you don't know how to deal with it. So it is important that we get help. I'm telling y'all, I never knew until this good blessed apostle let me know that my divorce was a part of a grieving process. And some of us will never acknowledge that. I had to grieve in order to be made whole. So part of me died so that my whole self can live. So I want to encourage you today to do whatever it takes. Maybe you're already married and you still saying, I'm struggling in this area of my marriage because I didn't take time to grieve. Or maybe I did. It took me a long time to understand why me and my husband was going through certain situations in our lives. And it's because neither one of us took the proper time to heal from what we were going through. So healing is a part of the process. We have to be healed in order to be made whole. And in order to do that, we have to get grieving out of the way. So write that letter, burn it up, do whatever you got to do to make yourself whole. But we want to be whole in 2024 so that we can have effective relationships, so that we can have effective ministries, so that we can live in this hour of our lives. Okay. So I encourage you all to get back up and live. That was the word I said. Get back up and live.
Quenisha said, join them on the put it on the altar. This is a topic coming up next month.
All right.
Depends on what time and day it is.
It's on live. They usually come on at night. So we will see what we can do. Inbox me. But grief is definitely a heavy topic. And this is what the Lord gave me tonight. And I thank God for my bestie / apostle giving me this opportunity. She helped me heal, y'all. So I'm not telling y'all nothing. And I had to help her because when her mom left, that was a part of her, and I had to be here and I had to accept her lashing out. I had to accept it. It didn't feel good, but guess one thing I love about her? She apologized through the process. It's nothing like cutting somebody and did not apologize after I told you that you cut me. Like what? Where we do that at? So I thank God for her because she was sensitive and she was very apologetic because she didn't realize it. But it takes someone that understands you to know, hey, I might be sharp today. Forgive me. I'm sorry. Pain will cause you to be that way too. Pain will cause you 99% of her time. She's in pain. So her tolerance level is different. Not only am I her bestie, not only do she cover me, but guess what? I'm her home health aide. So I have to know these triggers. I have to know when she's having a bad day and don't want to be bothered today. When she quiet, I don't mess with her. I wait till she come around and start talking because I'm liable to get cut in the process. So it's all about knowing the person that you're dealing with for the moment. So thank you guys again for listening to us. Grief is a process. It doesn't happen overnight. Don't feel bad because you're breathing. Lord Jesus, because you're grieving. Because you are grieving. But get you some counseling. Get with you some group therapy. Get with you some people that can help you. And not somebody that's going to take your business and go talk to it about the man down the street. So get to you a therapist. Somebody that don't know you. Somebody that's not going to take sides with you. When the apostle go to her therapy, I stay wherever I am because that's her and her therapist's time to talk one-on-one. And although I'm her bestie, guess what? Maybe she want to share something with her therapist that she don't want me to know about. So I sit my happy hips right in that car or in the house or wherever she is if she's on the phone, and I give her space. And the same with anybody that's in therapy. You should have your space to talk freely and to be able to heal from the process that you're going through. So this is the most that I have talked in a while on Loving to Me I See. So I'm going to give her back the floor. I'm getting ready to prepare to go give my daughter her medicine. But I love you all. Heal. It's nothing wrong.
Change your clothes.
Some people are afraid to heal.
Change your clothes.
That just came to me. Some people are really afraid to heal because they feel like if I heal, I'm going to really be me. Some people like the pity. That's what I was saying earlier. Some people like the woe is me. Oh, baby.
I can't do it.
You okay today? Ain't nobody.
My tolerance for that is depleted.
All right.
But just change your clothes. Like I said, many of you go to bed and wake up and put on the same thing that you had on yesterday. And I'm not talking about the physical clothes. I'm talking about those emotions that you go to bed with at night that you should have left with God. Those more emotions that you wake up with.
Yes.
You get up and they're your undergarments. As you're getting dressed, you're putting on that same grief, that same guilt, that same hurt, those same pains, those same feelings of abandonment because you're refusing to deal with them. So you're dressing up with them in the morning and you're taking them off at night and they rest just like the rest of your clothes till the next day. And then they get right back up with you. Change your clothes. Make sure that as you go day to day, that each day has a new part of clothing that you're able to remove. Don't keep on walking around as a living cemetery. heal, and be made whole so that you might enjoy the person whom you really are. So this is us concluding our night of Loving the Me I See unapologetically. We are fearfully and wonderfully made. We thank all of the leaders who came on in the very beginning and were participating in the conversation. If you came on late, you could go back and replay the live and hear all that we said on tonight. But we're encouraging people to live even after the trauma of grief. You are going to be all right. We love you. My bestie's praying, and we're going home. We're signing off.
Again, thank you. Remember, it is okay to grieve. It's what we're doing in the grieving process, okay? Is that Swashi? Hey!
Hey, Swashi.
Long time no see. We pray that all is well. We pray that something we said tonight will help you heal and move forward from where you are. So, Father, in Jesus' name, we thank you tonight. We praise you, we honor you, we adore you for every leader that came on, for everyone that partook in this live tonight. Father, we pray that their grieving process will be made easy. God, we thank you and we praise you tonight because we know that you do all things well. Now, Father, as we sleep on tonight, cover us under your blood. Those that are still going through the grieving process, kind God, I pray that you would touch them in Jesus' name. Lift them up, heal them is our prayer. We thank you for our founder at all times. Continue to strengthen and bless us. In Jesus' name, amen.
We love you.